Buying used equipment can be a crapshoot. Sometimes you do okay, like I did when I bought that Crest VS900. Nothing wrong with it, just had to quieten the fan down a bit. Sounds beautiful. And then other times, well, you can buy something and it just becomes a total nightmare, like what's coming up.
This time I have a Panasonic SV3700 professional digital audio tape deck.
I did not buy this. This was shipped in for repair.
The back of these ones features just analog and digital inputs and outputs using coaxial type unbalanced as well as Canon XLR type connectors for both digital and analog. It's a balanced input, balanced output. And you can operate it as an unbalanced as well by only using one of the pins in ground. Let's check this one out and see what it does. First things first, I'm going to pop it apart and just do a physical check over on the unit itself before I even power it up, and then we'll check it out and see what it's doing. So for playback, I'll just use the headphone output. Find a tape that I can play here. I know that this machine will only play tapes that are recorded in SP. We'll try this one to see what it does.
Yes, the tape is turning, it's just not reading anything off the tape. In a minute I'm going to get the message that comes up on the screen that tells me to clean the heads.
So it's not reading anything, it's not reading the absolute time or anything off the tape. The light on the front is flashing, indicating that the heads need to be cleaned, so let's try cleaning the heads. We'll try loading a cleaning cassette. Run that through for a few seconds. See whether that makes any difference. Cleaning cassettes, incidentally, are considered one of the best ways to clean these heads because they are a metal particle tape. So it will not dissolve in alcohol, and as you can hear, that's all that was wrong with this machine. Okay, well, this is an awful expensive repair for cleaning heads because the fellow that owns this thing, is $200 in postage easily just to get it to me and back because of the size of it, for something that he could have resolved by finding himself a cleaning tape. But that's really the only way to do these. Same with 8mm cameras. Yes, you can use your fingernail to scrape. If you can get your fingernail in there, you could use it on the backside of the drum too and clear off the clog, but this one here is inaccessible. There's just no way to get your finger down there because of where it's located to use your fingernail unless you're double jointed so you can bend your finger backwards. Other than pull the transport apart to do it. But I mean, cleaning these things manually, it just does not work, right? You can't use a chamois and alcohol, and if you say that you can, then you've cleaned one that is not clogged. If you have a head that's clogged on an 8mm camera or high 8 or digital 8 or mini DV or digital audio tape, really the only way to clear that clog is to use one of these dry cleaning tapes, which is abrasive. It works like a file and it removes the clog. And you don't want to overuse them because they will wear the heads down faster if you use them too much. But the idea behind it is if the head is contaminated with metal, which is what these tapes are made of, these are metal particle tapes. If the metal particles have fused over the gap of the head, this is going to remove that. And as long as you don't run it for more than 10 seconds or so at a time, then it will remove the debris. He says, see, take the tape out without rewinding it. And they tell you not to try cleaning it more than 4 times, because if you try this 4 times and it doesn't work, then the problem is something else. It's not the heads that are dirty. So if after 4 times using one of these successively it does not clear the heads up, then you've got bigger problems and you're going to have the deck serviced. It's going to be something else other than debris on the heads. Skip to the next track forward. Skip back the track. Now this tape I've got is one that's has been damaged, so now I know it's going to play the tape okay. Let's try a tape that's not damaged, because this tape has been chewed up a bit in the machine, so I don't want to run the damaged portion past the heads and run the risk that they will contaminate again. But what I'm going to do is I have a tape here that's a full tape. I'm going to play this tape, and I'm going to just let this tape run, and if this machine runs all the way through this tape without any issues, I think it'll play this tape. Is it in, this might be in EP. This tape might be in EP, so it might not play it. Interesting, it appears that this does have more problems because it doesn't thread the tape. Well, isn't that strange that it did the first tape and now it's not doing it? Why not? It's like it's not detecting that the tape is in place. Okay, so I guess this does have more problems than meets the eye. Yeah, it's not threading the tape. Okay, well, I guess we have to figure out why it's now going to fault, because as you heard, it was playing. Good thing it's doing this now, because I'd hate to send it back and then have the guy say it doesn't work, and I'd be like, well, go check the video, it does. There are 2 switches on the board back here. This is the open switch, which closes when it's open, and the other switch should close when it's closed. Let's just make sure that these switches are in fact detecting or being read. So we'll look and see if there's a voltage across them when they're open and closed. So if I measure across this one, I see that there's no volts on here, and this one here has 4 volts on it. When I click close, that one goes to 0, so it is detecting that the and this one here goes to 5 volts, so it is detecting that the mechanism is closed, but it's not attempting to thread the tape. Okay, 4 screws removed. Looks like this has been out before, because the clips that hold the wires in place have already been opened up. So I would say someone else has been into this unit before. Okay, now the deck is out, we can inspect this. The very fact that the 4 screws that held the deck in place were not even finger tight.
Oh look, someone wrote good on the side of it.
And this wire tie has been removed. That's what holds these wires in place, and was bent up like that, is a pretty good indication that someone's been into this, and I'm sure that there were, because the guy that sent me this, he just bought this machine apparently, and it wasn't working properly. So I'm sure someone else has been in here in the past working on it. Let's just see what they may have done, what work has been done on this one. Looks like some resistors have been added here on this board, unless that was a factory mod. But that's been done, and some more resistors have been added over here. Again, I don't know whether that's a factory mod or not. It may very well have been something done by Panasonic. We'll remove this board and take a look under here and see what other work may or may not have been done on here. That wasn't clipped in properly. That was supposed to be clipped in under there, but it was sitting up like that, so whoever put this back together last time didn't do it right. We'll tip it down, and I'm going to unplug the head drum and the other ribbon cables here, just so I can inspect it. So we'll lift up these connectors and remove the ribbons carefully without damaging them. This is a servo board. No surface mounted cramps on this one, unlike the 3600 that I have, which is full of surface mounted cramps. They all had to be replaced. I'll remove the cassette loader next from the chassis. These screws are loose too, indicating that somebody has been into here, because these screws are really loose, like there's no effort required. It's like somebody just put them back together quickly, and as you can see, looks like the upper drum is replaceable on these units. Unlike my Sony's, which is you buy the entire drum, this one here the drum comes off. Cool. Where's my loading motor on this one? It's down here. Little mode switch on the back here. This is the preamp board, obviously. I see styrofoam in here. And there's styrofoam on the inside of the cabinet, which is a good indicator that somebody at some point put a bunch of styrofoam chips in when they were shipping the unit before, and they've gotten into the unit itself. So the capstan motor is what loads this up on this one. And once it's loaded, then the loading motor should reverse to disengage the mechanism. Okay, the mode switch is keyed, so it can only go on one position on the gear. You can see there's a pin right there and a hole that it drops into. So let's clean this mode switch. Because that could certainly cause problems like we were having. Of course, other switches to check would be the tape detection switches at the back as well. Although these ones here I think are a little different. They only detect whether you've got tape detection or whether it's what type of tape it is, whether it's a certain type of tape. There'd be another hole here. You see there's two switches on here. One detects whether you can record on the tape, and the other one detects whether there's a hole punched in here, which some types of tapes would have. Does this tape have a hole there? Nope. But we'll clean these pin switches just to be on the safe side. Since the mechanism's apart now. Okay, I guess I'll put the mechanism back on. And we'll put the transport back in and see whether anything different happens. Okay, let's see if we've made any progress now. Whether it's going to load this tape and play it. Fingers crossed it will. Otherwise, it's back to the drawing board. Again, I don't know whether this tape is in. I guess this tape is in SP. Obviously, I can't play this tape because It's full of copyright stuff, so I'm gonna have to just let this play. I'm gonna test this machine for a while, make sure it's working, and fingers crossed. That's all it was bad encoder switch, and the little detection switches on the bottom had become contaminated, because that's all I did was I just cleaned the mode switch and cleaned those detection switches, and of course cleaned the heads because they were clogged up initially. Anyway, we're gonna let this thing run, and while it runs I will go and have my dinner, go cook my dinner and have it. Gonna fire up the barbecue tonight. This unit's still playing, and we're gonna take the tape out now and see if it threads up again. It's working, so we'll continue to let this run for a little while longer. I'll run a few more tapes through it.
That's Michael Deep from his Through the Harp CD. We'll get into a 60-minute extended music set now, and we'll get it started with the gentleman that's on his way to Humphreys, Chet Atkins, who was a contemporary of Wes Montgomery. He was around back during the days of Wes Montgomery, and
There's a radio station log.
He left here early, you might say, but he left his mark on the music world and has been an intense influence to guitarists ever since. But then so has Chet, and Chet's still around, and he's been an influence to a lot of the big names like Earl Klugh and George Benson, and some of the guys in Acoustic Alchemy look up to Chet as an innovator, one of the guys who did a lot of combining different styles of guitar playing into one that he calls his own. And here's a sample of what Chet does from his Stay Tuned CD with the track called Quiet Eyes by Chet Atkins.
Obviously I can't play that, but as I say, this machine's been going now for about an hour. Still going strong. I'll let this tape continue to play, and then I'll play a couple of other tapes through it. And if everything plays as I'm expecting it to, then this unit is ready to go back. I think we may have a more serious problem on this unit. Watch the tape. I was just doing some cueing and reviewing. I probably shouldn't use this tape because I'm going to damage it. But watch the tape here. The tape is around the back side of the guide here. Watch what happens if I start to cue and review. It's going to jump the guide. Okay, watch. There, you see? Tape just jumped over the guide. This unit, I think the pinch roller is shot on it. So I'll pull the mechanism apart again, just so I can get down to the, I don't take the circuit board or anything off the bottom. I just want to take the top off the chassis. So I'll pull the mechanism out. I just want to inspect that pinch roller. I mean, I'm not going to have one for it, but I want to give it a good look and see. And I doubt that I'll have one that will fit it. So now I'll pop out these screws, lift the loading mechanism off the top so that I can access the actual transport. And this is held in place by just one, it's just one plug on here. Okay, pinch roller. Here is the pinch roller. So, well, for starters, the capstan is excessively, looks like there's a bunch of crap on this capstan shaft. We'll be able to clean that off. We'll try cleaning this pinch roller, see whether I can soften it up a bit. But what's happening is when they go into reverse, the tape guide is pulled up like this, right? The tape is pulled up behind this guide. This guide actually comes right into here. So the tape is pulled on this guide, then it travels around this guide post, which holds it up against the head, and then around the capstan. And when the tape is put into reverse, it's flipping it over top. So it's likely worn, and it's spinning the tape up. More than likely what the problem is. It's going to clean off this capstan and make sure there's no gunge on here. I'm cleaning the lower drum. not the heads. And I'll do the non-head portions of the upper drum. Look at this, right? Anything that could cause the tape to stick to it when it was rewinding. Could be the capstan of this motor is worn out to the bearings. So there's a bit of play on this. If I move the motor itself, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but another thing I've noticed is the back tension band has come unglued from the band that it's on. So let's just remove the back tension screw, back tension band screw, so we can lift it up and lift it out of here so that I can reattach it. You see the pad has come off of the backing. So I'm just putting some standard white glue number 2. This is just like the same stuff that kids would have used in elementary school. Put that on the band and center it and let it dry. Interesting, the guides appear to stick and not move. I've got the mechanism apart so I can run it through the paces by hand. We can see the cam gear turning, and as the guides start to lift up, they jam. The whole entire mechanism jams. Right there. That ticking sound you hear is the gears slipping right over here. So something is causing this to jam now. Everything appears to be moving freely, like there's nothing jamming on here. I'm going to remove the capstan motor to look under the chassis here to see whether there's something holding this up. So the capstan motor is just held in place with three screws, and it will lift out like this. Now I can observe and operate the mechanism by hand and see whether it will load. And it still sticks when we get to this point. I think there's a cut washer on here to see if I can remove this and lift this gear off. I want to make sure that the mechanism is riding in the track properly, or the cam is riding in the track on this cam gear, the control arm. If I lift off the cam gear, I should be able to operate it manually without the gears engaging. Okay, cut washer off, cam gear lifts out. This is the control arm here. That's jamming. You see? Something is jamming this. I still see little pieces of styrofoam in here. See little pieces of styrofoam jamming in here. This is probably what's happened, is something's fallen into this mechanism and it's jamming it. Probably a piece of little plastic or something that's broke off, or some styrofoam or something that's gotten in here and it's causing it to jam. But let's just pick this piece out of here. See what I mean? It's probably going to be something ridiculous like that that's stuck in here, because there's been all kinds of little pieces falling out. Here's some more that's fallen out here, you see. There's been all kinds of little pieces of styrofoam that have fallen out of this thing. More than likely, that's what we're up against. Something is jamming in the mechanism. So it appears to be this guide is the one that's sticking. If I move it into position and then just give this guide a little bit of a helping hand, get it moving out of the way, then the mechanism will actually load more. You see? Now it goes all the way up. Where am I going here? Appears to be this one. This guide right here is the one that appears to be causing the problem. I'll bring it back down. Okay, it's not sticking the same way as it was before, but it appears to be this guide right there was sticking on something. And now I've freed it up, sort of. Not completely. I wonder if I can remove that guide and just take a look at what's under it. I think this is the screw for it. Lift this off? No. starts the loading cycle. Oh, now it's going to work. Excellent. Maybe that was just that spring was out of position. There's a groove on here. I put the spring onto that, and now it appears that it is loading correctly.
I figured the problem out, but then I really saw it when I was looking at the tape. See the
We'll work
crack
this through
in the guide?
one more
That
time by
crack,
hand
that's
here.
the problem. That guide is broken.
This is the problem when you buy stuff off of eBay or wherever this fellow that got this from got it. You never know, and all these old DAT machines. As I say, there was a guy that was selling one of these things here, and you know he was asking ridiculous amount of money. He says it doesn't work, and I went back to the guy and I said it's worth $20. Oh no, I want $300 for it. I said it's not worth $300. It's broken. Oh, it could be an easy fix. It could be an easy fix. It could be a tough fix. You know, it could be hours and hours and hours on the bench. You don't know, right? It's broken. It's got no value. It's broken equipment. So this guy sends me a screenshot of all these 3700s selling for, or people asking ridiculous amounts of money for them. Like, you know, $400 or $500 is a parts donor. I'm sorry, but this is not worth no $400 or $500 as a parts donor. When I buy DAT machines, I pick them up for $20, $20 to $30. That's what a parts donor is worth. See what I mean? There's bits of styrofoam in here.
At this point, I didn't see that crack guide. I didn't see it until I reviewed the tape. I figured it out when it jammed up again. But at this point, I'm putting it back together. I'm going to test it and see whether it works. And it's still going to have the problem. It's still going to eat the tape, and then it's going to jam again. And then I'm going to figure it out. It's the guide. Of course, we know this now because we saw the crack guide on camera before it put it together. But I haven't seen this part yet, so I'm just going through the motions now, hoping that it's going to work, which it's not.
Okay, let's check this out and see whether it works. That's a damaged tape. See, it jumped again. Could be this separate guide. There's a second guide on the right side of the pinch roller, right down here. It could be this one here. Could be a little. Could have worked its way up. In fact, it's loose. So we'll just try turning this one down a bit, because that could certainly, if it had worked its way up, that could certainly have caused the tape to ride up on the pinch roller when you go into reverse search. We'll see whether it still rides up on that. Actually, I'm going to say it's that guide right there. The one that's got the spring that was jamming before. I think that's our source problem. That guide is loose. It's jamming again. You can adjust it up and down. Well, it just turns forever. It doesn't actually move. It just spins forever. I bet you the plastic base on that is cracked,
and that's caused that guide to come loose. That's why the mechanism's jamming now. It's doing the same thing again. I try to load a tape, it'll just start the loading cycle, and then it jams. So I'm pretty sure that's our fault on this one, is that guide is shot. It's broken, it's not adjustable, it's too high. When you go into reverse search, it pulls the tape up. The tape jumps up over top of the pinch roller, between the pinch roller and the capstan shaft. It flips the tape up. Now it's not threaded correctly, and then it jams up. That's where the fault is going to be, and that's why this mechanism is jamming, is that I bet you the base of that has got a crack in it. I would say good luck getting parts for this. I'm going to talk to the guy that owns it and see how far he wants to go with... he'll have seen this video by now. But there's a good possibility that this one here is not going to be repairable, just due to the fact that, well, it's a DAT machine, it's Panasonic. Panasonic were impossible to get parts for even after a couple of years when they were in production, never mind a machine that's been out of production for, what, 30 odd years? When did they stop making these things? Around 2000 maybe? So it's been out of production for at least 20 years, 22 years. I don't remember when Panasonic stopped making them. I was looking to see if there's a date on the back of this unit. But Sony were the last to get out of digital audio tape machines, and they abandoned them. I think it was 2005 was when Sony dropped theirs. I think Tascam around the same time. So definitely it's at least 20 years old, this machine, and Panasonic were impossible to get parts for even after 5 years. Even on the Pro stuff, they just stopped making parts. So I mean, ideally you'd grab a donor machine and get a transport out of it, but again, for what people are asking for donor machines, it's just not worthwhile. When you see people when you see people asking $300 for a donor machine, by the time you get the parts off it and get a machine running, you're into some serious dollars. Plus, it costs the guy $100 each way to ship this thing. So just to get it to and from him, he's a couple $100 plus my time, plus the parts. I have a sneaking suspicion that he's probably going to walk away from this one. Anyway, I'm going to end this video now because there's not a hell of a lot else I can do. The machine works other than the fact that that guide is jamming, and I've spent far too much time on this machine so far. Anyway, we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.